Welcome to this video on conducting a hypothesis test for two means with a summary using RGuroo. Let's begin. A tech reviewer wants to compare the average battery life in hours of two different smartphone brands, brand A, which is a name brand, and brand B, which is generic. Use the data summary provided below to determine whether the name brand of batteries, brand A, lasts longer than the generic brand, brand B, at the 10% significance level. So here's our data summary. The sample size for brand A is 25, while for brand B it's 30. The mean battery life in hours for brand A is 10.5 hours, for brand B it's 9.8. The standard deviation in hours for brand A is 1.2, and for brand B it's 1.5. When you log onto RGuroo, your screen should look something like this. We're going to select Analytics, and then go to Analysis, then we're going to go to Mean Inference, and select 1 and 2 population. When we do this, let's look at the screen and see what we have. So one thing that we could do is provide a data set. But as you know, we don't have a data set, we have a summary. So let's look at the screen down here. So notice that we have 1, 2, 3, 4 tabs. So we have with summary, which is what we have, and we have information about population 1 and population 2. And we also have this little box that says paired data. So let's see what happens if I click on the tab Population 1. So the Population 1, this would conduct either a confidence interval or a hypothesis test just on this population alone. Likewise, I would do the same thing just on Population 2. And if I want to compare Population 1 with Population 2, then I would have to click on this tab to enter what test I want to do. So let's start by entering the summary information. So I'm going to call population 1, I'm going to call that brand A, just for simplicity's sake, and then I'll call this brand B. Okay, so I'm going to have to go back to my screen and remember what my sample mean was. Okay, so the sample mean here was 10.5, and my sample mean for brand B was 9.8. My standard deviation over here was 1.2, and for brand B it was 1.5. And my sample size for brand A was 25, and over here it was 30. Okay, we are not given the population standard deviation in either case. So this is not a paired data set, so we are not going to select this box. That's very important. So then we're going to select the last tab, which says population 1-2, and we're going to tell this that we want to do a hypothesis test. We want a 10% significance level. And now we have to craft our alternative hypothesis. Well, how do we do that? So here is our problem statement. We're back here. So let's look at the part that is telling us what our alternative hypothesis should be. So I would encourage you to pause this video, see if you can find it, and then see if you're correct. So this is the part that is the key. Brand A lasts longer than the generic brand B. In other words, we think that the mean battery life of brand A, which we'll call population 1, is greater than population 2, which is brand B. And you could very simply and easily change this to mu1 minus mu2, just using some basic algebra and subtract mu2 from both sides. And doing that, we would get mu1 minus mu2 is greater than 0. So now we have our alternative hypothesis statement. So back in RGuroo, I'm going to select mu1 minus mu2 is greater than 0. Okay, and the method that I want to use is a t-statistic. And that's because if you recall here, we have one sample size that is less than 30, and also we don't know the population standard deviation. So that should be enough. So let's go ahead and hit the eyeball and see what happens. All right, so this just spits out a whole lot of information and some pictures and everything like that. But remember, the one piece of information that we want to extract from this analysis is our p-value, and that is this value right here. So the question still remains, is there sufficient evidence to support the claim that the name brand of batteries, brand A, lasts longer than the generic brand, brand B, at the 10% significance level? So here is our p-value straight from RGuroo, and here's our significance level, or alpha, as stated in the problem. As you can see, our p-value is less than alpha. So since the p-value is less than the significance level, we have to reject the null. So we would say that there is sufficient evidence to suggest that the name brand of batteries, brand A, lasts longer than the generic brand, brand B, at the 10% significance level.